Coming up on NEC-TV, NEC politics professor tells us about the impacts of the government shutdown.
Be the Match is back on campus. Hear about how you can help save lives with just a cheek swab.
And an impressive police canine demonstration shows criminal justice majors a unique side of police work.
All this and more coming up on NEC-TV. Good afternoon and thank you for watching NEC-TV. I'm Jack Lombardo.
And I'm Bodie Robinson. Today is October 9th, 2025.
We begin with our top story. We are in our 9th day of the government shutdown, and there is no telling this time when this will be resolved. Politics professor Nathan Schrader is in the studio to tell us a little more about what is happening.
Okay, Dr. Schrader, thank you so much for joining us to talk about the government shutdown today. And we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. So, what does a government shutdown entail, and how common or unusual is it?
So, I found over the course of the last couple of what 10 days or however long we've been at this that the terminology is imperfect because it implies that all functions of the federal government are shut down when really there are certain critical departments and agencies like Homeland Security, the military, and others that are still functioning. So it is a government shutdown, but it's not a 100% complete shutdown. One of the huge disruptors that is happening right now with the shutdown or partial shutdown or however I want to, the right terminology will come to us, but there are about 750,000 government employees who are furloughed, meaning they're not going to work right now, they're not being paid. It'll be up to Congress later whether or not they're going to extend back pay for these folks, although the president said that he may not support that. But that's usually the traditional thing is the back pay. So government employees are sent home. Certain agencies are not functioning, but other critical ones that have to do with our, say, national defense and safety, the correction systems, and they're still running. Okay,
yeah. And what was the disagreement between parties that led to this?
This is a tough one to answer because there's multiple factors involved in this. First of all, not to get too into the weeds here, but Congress operates just like any business does on a fiscal year cycle, right? So if the Congress does not pass and the president does not sign into law the appropriation bills that fund the different government agencies, there's simply not enough money to pay for the functions of government to continue. So one of the things is it hits that time in the fiscal year where they've got to have the appropriations bills passed, or you can't write the checks, you can't pay the bills. So that's part of it, is disputes over the fiscal year. And here's where I can be critical of both parties on this. They all knew that these deadlines are coming, and they still waited and waited and waited. So to some degree, this was a crisis of their own doing because they've known all year that the fiscal year starts over October the 1st, but they're not there to pass the bills or to reauthorize spending. The other piece is Democrats are holding out because the president's prior bill, what he was calling the Big Beautiful Bill earlier in the year, slashed Obamacare recipients' benefits to some degree. The Democrats are holding out that they won't pass the appropriations bills unless the Republicans allow the restoration of those Obamacare changes.
Right. All right. That kind of leads me into our next question. Does Congress get penalized for not doing one of their very explicit constitutional responsibilities, which is to build and pass a budget?
You are asking the question that I wish every journalist was asking out there, because a core function of the job is the appropriations process. That's one of the most important facets of the job. So the Senate, from what I see, they're still working. They're still trying to come up with something. The House is not working at the moment. They were sent home. Look, so the answer is no. The members of Congress they're unlikely to be penalized, but they could be penalized indirectly when they run for re-election next year. Because remember, all members of the House and a third of the members of the Senate run for re-election next year. So if the voters get angry enough about these delays and the holdup and the shutdown or partial shutdown, they could feel that wrath of the voters at the ballot box next November.
Absolutely, yeah. Can you explain how people are affected by this and if it might impact college students, for example, with the use of FAFSA?
Look, I have read competing narratives about what happens in terms of the FAFSA system. There's several sources I've read saying that those things would continue to be processed the way they were intended to be. Others have said there could be delays. Let me give you an example that I think we're going to see more of as this goes on, if this continues longer. Backups at airports. There was a report out this morning in one of the national newspapers that there are increasing flight delays because of certain federal government agencies that work with aviation that are causing delays at some of the nation's biggest airports. Those are the kind of things that I think are going to really anger the American citizens if this continues.
Yeah.
The things that could affect us every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big one, when do you think Congress will be able to pass a budget?
That's a really sticky question, because even before the October 1st deadline hit, they were already talking about doing this as like a temporary 30-day Band-Aid, if you will. They weren't looking at, they had already said, they already kind of determined they weren't going to be able to get the votes together to do a full year budget, so they were looking at a 30-day one, which means they'd have to just come back and redo this in 30 days. So the hope is that they can get enough support together to pass as at least to reopen the government for a short period of time. But I think in the best interest of the country, they would want to they would want to appropriate the funding to allow the government to operate till the start of the next fiscal year, October 1st. I think that doing these 30-day incremental appropriations, it gets really confusing, and it's just going to lead us back to this exact same place over and over again.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to you guys at the desk.
Senior class council elections will be held next week to decide who will be organizing senior events. David Skeet and Kaylee Montgomery are running for president, while Aurora Gutierrez Macia, Ashlyn Williams, and Kendall Murawski are running for vice president. Chelsea James is running unopposed for secretary. 2 seniors are running for Spirit and Events Coordinator, Ashley LeMay and NEC-TV's own Jack Cody. To learn more about the candidates, go to the Senior Student Council Instagram about seniors can vote Monday through Friday through the email link.
The New England College Student Government is looking for people interested in roles for the rest of the semester. And next, open positions include first-year executive, 4 senators at large, a graduate student senator, and a treasurer for the spring semester. Students interested in running for the open position should contact Michael Bernard, Dr. Nathan Schrader, or the student government email on screen before October 24th.
It's not every day that you see a cop car and police canines on the Simon lawn.
It was part of a demonstration by the Portsmouth Police K-9 Unit, teaching criminal justice students about what it's like to work with dogs while solving crimes. NEC-TV Jack Cody has a story.
Ears, tails, paws. 2 fuzzy canines visited campus Tuesday. But these dogs are not like our pups at home. They are constantly on the clock.
Warning, Police K-9 will be released. Warning, Police K-9 will be released.
The Criminal Justice Program and Club hosted this demonstration with the Portsmouth Police Department K-9 unit. This is Crash, and this is Frankie. While these dogs seem playful, they are hardworking and take training seriously. With about 150 calls per year, their handlers say that the dogs' hard work keeps Portsmouth and surrounding towns safe. To become an officer's partner, these dogs go through 7 months of Police K-9 Academy and regular in-service trainings. These dogs are always training, ready to handle every scenario possible. Police Officer Bill Werner says this type of presentation helps aspiring criminal justice students, especially if they want to pursue K-9 work.
Being able to talk to college students and kind of give them an idea of what this job looks like, hopefully it makes them interested, right? Obviously, recruitment is an important thing in law enforcement, but it's also just giving them another idea as to a path they can go down, in their lives.
Natalia Gonzalez, president of the Criminal Justice Club, says her favorite part of the presentation was talking to the police officers and witnessing them in action.
So it was like really, really cool to get people without being part of the CJ Club to actually come to these things, be extra credit, be more participant into it.
Kate Ganya is the treasurer of the Criminal Justice Club.
Really important for people to get like the real story behind being a canine handler and also being a law enforcement officer.
For NEC-TV, I'm Jack Cody.
NEC officials say additional tests show the water on campus is safe for drinking and good for cooking.
4 water samples collected across campus that were tested independently. Off campus do not show elevated levels of lead.
This comes after the town of Henniker and NEC announced concerns over samples collected in town a few weeks ago. According to a post on the Henniker website, tests that showed higher than average lead amounts are due to older plumbing lines, and the Henniker water source is safe. 8 new members were recognized as Athletic Hall of Fame. Inductees hear about one special inductee.
Be the Match is back on campus. Allie Birchmeyer tells us how you can help save lives with just a cheek swab. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Each year, the American Library Association hosts Banned Books Week. It started in 1982 to highlight issues around book censorship. Organizers have listed frequently banned books in the United States, including 1984 and To Kill a Mockingbird. Jackie Hansen works at NEC's Danforth Library and says it is important for college students to understand why books are banned.
We're at the college level, so we're not trying to keep our students from having access to any information. Everybody's an adult. And we think that it does speak to what's happening culturally, the books that get banned by different groups. So by being banned, it signals their importance.
Banned Book Week ends October 11th. Anyone interested in NEC's collection can find it at the Danforth Library. The Pilgrims recognized 8 new members into the NEC Athletics Hall of Fame last Saturday.
Among those honored, an athletic facilities manager known for his dedication to campus, Parker Doobie spoke with his family.
During a busy fall festival weekend, members of the new Pilgrim Athletics Hall of Fame class were given recognition at halftime of the football game. 7 of the inductees were former athletes ranging from the class of 2001 to 2020. However, one of the more notable Pilgrims inducted was the late athletic facilities manager George Ward, class of 1977. His family spoke to what it means for the longtime Pilgrim to be recognized for all of his years in Henniker.
I think he would have been really proud. He truly believed that every student here was his student.
Ward spent 25 years working as a groundskeeper maintaining 26 acres of NEC fields. His wife, Marcia Joseph Ward, says his dedication was unwavering.
He took his job very seriously as far as he knew what needed to get done. He made sure it got done. He was not a slacker at all.
The rest of the Pilgrims recognized include Ralph Aiello for men's hockey, Tara Brainbridge for women's lacrosse, Evan Delaney for baseball, Renee Hudson for women's basketball, Jay Muniz for men's rugby, Jackie Parker for women's lacrosse, ice hockey, and field hockey, and Isaiah Winston Brooks for men's basketball. The formal ceremony for their induction will be held on Saturday, May 23rd. For NEC-TV, I'm Parker Doobie.
According to the National Marrow Donor Program, one person in the U.S. is diagnosed with a blood disorder every 3 to 4 minutes. 70% of those do not have a donor match in their family. Bodie joined in the studio by Allie Birchmeyer, who is organizing this year's Be the Match Registry event and asking NEC students to help save lives with a simple cheek swab.
Thank you so much for joining us. Can you give us a brief description of what Be the Match is?
Yeah, so it is the National Marrow Donor Program. They recently rebranded within the last year or so, and it is a program that helps find stem cell donors. for people that are in need of a stem cell transplant. And so the program that they run a lot with college campuses is called Get in the Game. And so we partner with college athletics, and they partner with college athletics all over the United States to get college students who are in kind of the key demographic for donors to do a cheek swab, which gets people, they kind of then have their DNA profile, and then they can use it. Doctors can match that to somebody that might need a stem cell transplant. So that could be somebody who's undergoing treatment for cancer, and they need, basically when you get a stem cell transplant, you're getting a new set of DNA into your system and a new set of genes that can help fight off whatever it is. So if your immune system isn't working correctly, they wipe out your immune system and then are giving you an infusion of somebody else's immune system, and so you can help them be able to fight off whatever it is. So leukemia is a common example, but there's a lot of other conditions out there that people also need stem cell transplants. And so usually a stem cell transplant is just a donation similar to a blood donation, where if you were matched, and there's a whole bunch of medical screening that goes into it once you are called and they're like, oh, you might be a match for somebody. They do all this screening and then make sure you're a match. And then essentially there's two different ways that you would give, and one is like similar to a blood donation. They take your blood and they filter it and they take out just the parts they need and they give you back some stuff. And then the other way is through a surgical procedure, but that's a very small percentage of cases, and that's usually only when there's a child involved that needs a stem cell transplant.
So what would you say the benefits are of being a match?
Yeah, I mean, you get to save somebody's life, so it's the opportunity to give something of yourself that maybe isn't a lot, right? It's usually maybe an 8-hour process that it might take to give this, and then you're giving somebody the opportunity to get their life back. And kind of, they call it rebirth days for people who get a stem cell transplant, because it's the start of their new life, hopefully with their new immune system, and then they get to continue to live. And so you might give that opportunity to somebody.
So when is it and where would it be held?
Yeah, so we're doing a couple events. So like I said, we're partnering with athletics, and so all of the student athletes on campus are going to go to a presentation early the week of October 20th. And then later that week, on October 23rd, we're bringing the swab event, as we call it, to campus. So it'll be outside of Gilmore Dining Hall. I believe it's 11 to 2 that day. We'll have different groups of student athletes and other volunteers kind of out there helping people who want to get swabbed. So the actual swab process takes maybe 3 to 4 minutes, and you're basically using a giant Q-tip, and you're swabbing both sets of cheeks, and you enter some information into an app, and then they send it off, and then it gets coded and added to the database. And then within about a month or so, you get notification as a person that you've been added, and then they check in with you every year to make sure you still want to stay on the registry. So for most people, it's just a simple cheek swab to get added to the list. And then if you were to be called up and say, oh, you're a potential match, would you be willing to undergo some additional tests to see how close of a match you are? And then you may get selected. So we've had a couple students that have been called for the initial part of the process, and then either they didn't need their stem cells, or they weren't the best match possible out there, or sometimes the patient gets too sick and then they have to wait in treatment. But we have had a couple people called. Nobody yet donated, but we do know other colleges in the area have had people matched. So young people, 20 to 40, have the best chance of matching because your cells reproduce at a higher rate. And so they're the best match for somebody to get that immune system versus somebody who's a little bit older. They wouldn't regrow as fast and help people as quickly.
Well, thank you for joining us, Allie.
You're welcome.
And back to you.
Coming up on NEC-TV, the athletic training room has a brand new upgrade. Hear from the Pilgrims head trainer about the impact this will have on the athletes.
And lots of home sports action for Fall Festival weekend. Lauren Hall recaps it for us in your NEC-TV sports update. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back.
While transformations are still being made for NEC's new athletic facility, the training room has received its upgrade. The training room has gotten brand new tables that they have been waiting for since this July. Head athletic trainer Heather Jones says this is going to be a big upgrade for all student athletes who receive treatment.
Old tables were over 20 years old, probably over 25. So they were getting a little old, and so these are bigger, a little bit wider, a little bit more stable, and as you can tell, the back raises up, so we'll be able to do better treatments when they can be sitting up, or we could have their legs, if we need to, go up for elevation and a bunch of different things.
The entire facility is expected to be open by March 2026. Homecoming games highlighted a busy sports week at NEC.
Lauren Hall is in studio with an NEC-TV sports recap.
Thanks, guys. NEC Athletics had a busy week of fall festival, homecoming games, and matches. Field hockey had a 3-0 week, including a 2-0 conference win over Colby Sawyer College and 3 shutouts. Sophomore Kira Geddes earned Co-Pilgrim of the Week for her performance, while senior Martina Hill was tabbed GNAC Defender of the Week. Women's soccer picked up a senior day win, defeating Mitchell College 4-2. Sophomore Madison Bowman had 2 goals and picked up Co-Pilgrim of the Week following her first multi-goal game. Men's soccer defeated Mitchell College 2-0 Saturday evening, capping out a perfect record on the dawn for homecoming games. Chase Grotowski and Wyatt Flibbert had 1 goal each in the win. Volleyball fell to Emmanuel College in their homecoming match, losing by a score of 3-1. Football took on Curry College for their homecoming game, losing 62-7. Football is off this week, but is back in action on the road against Husson University on October 18th. Golf took on the USM Husky Classic Sunday, finishing 6th out of 11 teams. They compete in the GNAC Championship Monday and Tuesday. They are ranked first in the pre-tournament polls and look to defend their back-to-back GNAC titles. Cross country will race in the Hopkinton Cross Country Festival on Friday for their first race since September 20th. For more information, visit nec.edu/athletics. Back to you at the desk.
Thanks, Lauren. Fall is in the air in Henniker. This week we saw some rain and temperatures are starting to drop.
Now, let's take a look at the upcoming weather for this week with NEC-TV's Leah Bowling.
Thanks, guys. Now let's take a look at this week's weather. For the rest of today and through the weekend, we'll be looking at sunny skies. Starting on Sunday, we'll have partly cloudy skies and traveling through the rest of the week. It's seeming to be cooling down for the fall season in Henniker. So on Thursday, we'll have a low of 30 degrees with a high of 56. On Friday, a low of 34 and a high of 64. Then on Saturday, a low of 41 and a high of 69. On Sunday, a low of 39 and a high of 64. Then on Monday, a low of 40 and a high of 64. On Tuesday, a low of 45 and a high of 66. And then ending it off on Wednesday with a low of 42 and a high of 70. Back to you guys at the desk.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at nec.tv for the latest NEC news.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you right back here next week for all things NEC from the only Henniker on earth.